Wyoming. I don't know why. I just recently heard somebody mention something around their North Gold Street in Sheridan, Wyoming, and how there's like thousands of companies registered at that same address in Sheridan.
Yeah,
Wyoming.
that doesn't surprise me.
Yes. So, Joe, I don't know if you're joining us from that address in Sheridan, Wyoming, but anyway, we're glad to have you. We have Eric joining us from Pakistan. We have Nana Sorensen. I love the with the slash. That's super cool. Is joining us from Denmark. Becca is joining us from Indiana. Congratulations. I don't know if you're a Hoosiers fan, but it was quite the win the other night against Miami for the national championship. And Indiana is a team that had historically the most losses of any college football team.
Wow, really?
And yeah, and they were like 3-9 2 seasons ago, and they hired a new coach who turned it all around. So kudos to Indiana. So, and their odd thing in both men's basketball and college football, Indiana is now the most recent school in both sports to have gone undefeated. Yeah, craziness.
Wow. They're putting a lot of money into the sporting these days, I suppose.
Yes. I can't talk, having gone to Texas Tech, which is known for its oil money, and not being afraid to pay players. So thank you, everybody, for the participation there. So all of you who just let us know where you're from, we appreciate that. And go ahead and email podcast@myamazonguy.com, and we will get you a free mag school course valued at $100. So all you got to do is just email podcast@myamazonguy.com, and our team will get you a coupon code for a free mag school course. All right. So with that, we're not here to talk about where everybody's from and mag school courses. We're going to get into a few other things. But real quick, April says, I believe we're in the Western area. It takes 10 to 20 minutes to get to each state from my location. Oh, because she's in West Virginia, Kentucky, and Ohio, and 4 other states. Wow. You are traveling.
All over the place.
All over the, what is that, the Blue Ridge Mountain area. So anyway, super excited that everybody's here. Let's go ahead and get into it. So today we're going to be talking about the 4 pillars of growth on Amazon, because we want to make sure that you are scaling and not just what you see here, which is spinning your wheels. So does this sound familiar? You're doing all these things you think you're supposed to be doing, updating bids, listing optimization, keywords. None of that is wrong. We say it's good, but is that really the thing that's going to get you moving forward? Because you may feel like you're spinning your wheels and not getting the traction that you ultimately want. And the reality is it might just be you have the wrong strategy. But the good news is that's not your fault, and it is something you can fix. And we're going to show you how to do that here, because a lot of people out there they're just chasing a bunch of outdated hacks when it really comes down to having the right strategy, as we like to call the 4 pillars of growth on Amazon. So we'll go more in depth on what those 4 pillars are. Plus, we have a bonus 5th there as well, which we say that purposefully. It's not like I forgot that we have 5 on there, even though it's 4. We say it's 4 pillars of growth, plus there's a bonus 5th. So with that, today you're going to learn quite a few things. You're going to talk about the levers that actually work on Amazon, a holistic strategy to bring it all together so you can find those results. And we'll even do some live teardowns on how we can see people can improve that strategy, as well as answering your questions. So in case you're not familiar with us here at My Amazon Guy, we are the agency that gets your products seen and sold. And we've been doing this a while. So we've been doing this since 2018. We do about $1.2 billion annually on Amazon in sales, which is total about $6 billion total with a B, 6 billion. We manage about 400 brands, and we have about 450 employees. So we have lots of people in our laboratory who are testing these things to make sure that this is all updated and battle tested, which it is. So let me go ahead and have Noah introduce himself here.
Oh, not muted anymore. Okay, so hello.
Oh, there you go. Yes.
Hello, everybody. My name is Noah Wickham. I am our VP of Sales Marketing here. As you can see there, it says, I guess, above me now. I have been in e-commerce for over a decade at this point. I like to have the self-proclaimed title of, having reviewed over 1,000 or 10,000, different listings and ASINs at this point in time. Kevin's playing around with every preset possible right now, moving me all over the place. But yeah, we're gonna go over essentially today the kind of 4 primary growth pillars that we tend to see and utilize on every single one of our brands. And the point of these 4 pillars today, and it's things that I myself have talked about endlessly, but want to just dive in and kind of talk about why it is they're important and how pretty much everything that you do on your Amazon account falls into one of these 4 buckets. And of course, the lucky 5th bucket there as well, and why that 5th bucket is so important, because it has a little bit to do with everything. So excited to be here, excited to share some learnings, and yeah.
Awesome. I just brought myself back to stage. So, all right, well, let's go ahead and get into it. So let's talk a little bit about what are these 4 pillars and why are they important?
Absolutely. So, Kevin showed earlier, everyone, the kind of circular design we have there for the full service side of things, right? And like what all is encompassing within that. The reality is that realistically, you can break all growth pillars on Amazon down into 4. The first one being SEO. So SEO, everyone knows, that is your title, that is your bullet points, that is your description, your backend search terms as well. That is all of your SEO, is how you index, rank, and are actually seen on Amazon's platform. Because the way Amazon's algorithm works is if you are ever actually trying to push something or trying to show up for a certain keyword, you need to have that keyword within inside of your SEO. So that is always going to be our first pillar. That is what we would consider our organic side of things. The second pillar is PPC, the growth engine behind most Amazon brands. There are very, very few brands in this day and age that can do Amazon without any form of PPC. I even actually recently just talked to a brand this week at a conference I was at, and they are currently spending nothing on PPC, and they were trying to say, I should say, they aren't spending anything on PPC. Dig into it, start talking more and more. Guess what? They're not spending anything on Amazon PPC, but they spend roughly 6 figures per month on Meta ads, TikTok ads, and Google ads. And so there's always going to be some form of just advertising or PPC that you have to do to actually elicit growth on the platform. So that's always going to be our second pillar. That is what we consider to be our paid pillar. Now, our third pillar is going to be design. So design is, I think, the most impactful thing for buyers on the platform and customers, just because we always like to say pictures are for people and reading is for robots, right? And so anytime you are ever thinking about how to optimize the product detail page, design should be the very first thing that you are looking at. People do not read your titles. They don't read your bullet points. They definitely aren't reading your description. But what they are doing is they are going to scroll through your image stack. They might come down and look at your brand story, your A+ content. Those are going to be your big impactors, right? And so design is always going to be how we kind of, at the end of the day, convert on listings. Now, the fourth pillar within here is going to be what we call catalog merchandising. And I think this one is a little confusing to most people as to what is all encompassing of catalog merchandising. And so catalog merchandising is all encompassed within this idea of any type of promotion you run, any type of influencer campaign or coupon you run, any form of actual merchandising of your products outside. This can even be as simple as a strike-through price, which many people know about, right? Everyone knows about the age-old strike-through, but that is what is encompassing of catalog merchandising. It's very similar in the sense of the PPC side in being a huge mover, but at the end of the day, when we're thinking about something like conversion, that's realistically what catalog merchandising is just helping boost all of that conversion at the end of the day. So how does all of that come into the 5th secret pillar there? Well, the 5th secret pillar, if you guys saw, was click-through rate, which you could consider within the 3rd pillar design, but it's not. Click-through rate is its own individualistic thing. And most recently, actually, I'll try and find the actual post as well. But for those that don't know, there is a platform called Smart Scout. And the owner of that platform, Scott Needham, he does a lot of data. He digs into data all the time. I actually just found the post here as well. But essentially, Scott Needham had pulled enough data to see that the top clicked product within any Amazon search gets 18.5% of all of the sales. And so that is why click-through rate in of itself
Oh, wow.
yeah, exactly. So that's why click-through rate is such a huge mover at the end of the day, is because if you can be the top clicked product, you are also going to get the majority of the market share. And so click-through rate gets to be its own little special category that is all encompassing of the rest of the categories. So diving in, I think, to each one of the categories, is there a specific one you want to start with, Kevin?
Yeah, so let's go beyond, like, everybody loves the sexy stuff, PPC and SEO, keyword optimization and listing stuff. That's all, like, that's what gets clicks, that's what gets headlines, that's what gets more people to sign up when we do webinars and masterclasses. So we get it. We're not against those. But why is it important to focus on things like catalog, the back end stuff that, like, you feel like it's just collecting dust, or the design, which so many people think it's like set and forget, and they've got the same design from 2018 on their listing?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's dig into catalog merchandising and why it's so important. So I think the best way to actually kind of start that as well is to talk about something called dynamic pricing. And so I'll pull something up here on the screen here in a second, but we have even on our website an entire article that we put together. We put this last year. We have a couple of different ones and whatnot, but we have a guide to what is called dynamic pricing. I'll zoom in a little bit so people can actually read. But what is dynamic pricing? So dynamic pricing is basically the practice of once per month or once per week, even. It can be individualistic, right, of timeline, but it's essentially where you are doing a very specific price point for shoppers, right? You are trying to get a boost in overall sales volume and revenue. And this is where the idea of merchandising in general comes into play. And a lot of people probably don't even realize that this takes place all the time in even like retail and grocery stores, right? Every single person has gone through a grocery store on, let's say, a Tuesday, and noticed that Tuesdays have very different deals and sale prices for different types of products compared to Saturday or Sunday, right? And that is very intentional. That is what we consider to be dynamic pricing, in the sense that we are basically setting up a specific sales cycle so that we can boost sales during specific periods. So dynamic pricing is something that we always play around with. And on average, we're going to typically see sellers get a 2 to 3x in daily sales volume increase during these dynamic pricing times. We ourselves typically are going to tell people at least once per month to run some form of dynamic pricing. The goal at the end of the day with dynamic pricings, and we can dive into pro-con here, right? But the idea is essentially that you're trying to increase the price competitiveness for a short period of time, get yourself an initial sales boost, and that helps with your overall ranking at the end of the day, because sales is the number one factor when it comes to ranking, and price is the number one converting tool. Actual drawbacks of something like dynamic pricing. Well, you can see here, continuously lowering it can hurt, your margins. I think that's obvious. Everyone knows that if you dynamically price, it's going to hurt your margins, right? But then as well, doing consistent fluctuations in price can kind of erode trust within sellers, especially nowadays when we're looking at Amazon, right? And any single person can just go to Amazon, click this little price history, and Rufus will come through and be like, hey, so here is the last 30 days and the last 90 days where you can see, a different pricing. And so a lot of people have this idea that now price and changing price all the time dynamically can be a hindrance, but that's not really the case, especially if you have a product that isn't just an impulse buy type product, right? If you have a product that can be repeatedly purchased, dynamic pricing actually will work even more in your favor, because the fact that people are going to be looking for when you are doing your dynamic pricing. So this price fluctuation isn't something that I'm normally going to say is all that big of a deal. I had to Get a little water in there.
That happens. You're on a roll. In fact,
Yeah, right.
We have people like FISA who say really enthusiastic to learn gold from Noah Wickham from my Amazon guy today.
Fantastic. I love it. Yeah. And so dynamic pricing, right, is I think the simplest when it comes to the idea of merchandising the catalog in general. And so whenever we're looking at any form of catalog merchandising, right, the big aspects are there's a lot of different ways you can merchandise. As I mentioned earlier, you can do a strike through, you can do a coupon, you can do a promotion, you can do subscribe and save, right? There are a lot of these different factors. And so breaking down that barrier of what is the best kind of merchandising is always going to be, I think, a little tricky. And so if we're looking at Amazon, right, and we go to advertising, we will see here we have deals, coupons, price discounts, promotions, and then finally brand tailored promotions. So these are the kind of 5 core ways of what you can consider to be catalog merchandising. So how are you to choose which one to go with? This is going to depend on a few factors. One, what is the actual goal that you are trying to get? Are you trying to get just a very quick boost in overall sales and conversion volume? If that is the case, what I would typically recommend is nothing more than a discount, right? You just want to try and boost overall. Again, price being one of the number one converting factors, this will be your easiest form. Now, if you're trying to entice, for instance, let's say buyers that may not typically purchase a product like yours, you're already fairly price competitive within your market. What I'm going to instead recommend would be something like a coupon, right? Doing a coupon for a short-lived time. And one of the really great things about coupons nowadays is that we have a lot of different ways to do coupons. And this is, again, getting into the idea of thinking of Amazon similar to how you would think of retail. You don't have to run coupons for weeks upon weeks upon weeks. You can run coupons. Oh, hold on.
That's all right.
Throat. I've been talking a lot last couple of days, guys. So throat's a little dry here.
Noah just got off a plane just so he could be here because he flew to the West Coast for a conference and then back. But he wanted to make sure he was here for this.
Exactly. So Bears asked the great question, right? Of how long should I run a promotion? And again, getting into the idea of something like a coupon or any type of dynamic pricing. So if we're doing something like a price discount, right, we're going to, again, be looking at dynamic pricing. I typically look at those from a 2 to 3 day range, whereas something like a coupon, you should look at running it during specific times. So if we're doing a standard coupon, we can do that also in a very select way. So if we're trying to entice specifically either programs, so if we're trying to entice like Prime members, right, we can do that. If we want to entice specific types of brand audiences, we can do that as well. So you can see here for things like brand card banners, we have a 7-day and 90-day. And some people might confuse the idea of like a coupon or a brand tailored promotion with the brand tailored coupons. And these are different types of promotions at the end of the day, but different types of merchandising more specifically. So getting back to my idea, right, of a grocery store, you walk in on a Tuesday, you're going to have a very different set of coupons, sets of promotions comparatively to a Saturday. And so that's where doing a coupon for something such as brand card banners can have a huge effect. More even on that front as well is the idea of doing things such as like declining promising and declining top tier, right? Trying to entice these people who typically are going to be declining and unlikely to purchase your product to purchase the product again. And so these are the core roots of what is merchandising at the end of the day. And then Aga asked, what is the difference between these promotions, right? So when we're looking at types of promotions, and we can actually probably head on over to Amazon here. And if we actually just kind of look around, we'll choose a couple of different products, see if any of these have some of these promotions on them. We'll pull them up, see what they have going on. So for instance, this first one I clicked on has a coupon. So you'll see here that this coupon is save 25%, coupon available when you subscribe and save. And so this is specifically, if we come back to coupons, a subscribe and save coupon. And subscribe and save coupons are very purposeful, right? If you have a product that has high reorder potential, usually something that is consumable in nature, so a supplement, a food product, anything like that, subscribe and save coupons are ones where you essentially get somebody or entice somebody to purchase, but only from a subscribe and save standard, right? with the idea that Amazon's giving 5% and then you're giving an additional 25%. So they are going to be locked in to a 25% discount, right? As a whole. So 10% plus the 15 on repeat deliveries. They are going to be locked in to a 15 to 25% discount forever, right? Until they obviously cancel. And this is where it's essentially trying to bring down what your overall customer acquisition cost is in lieu of a lower customer lifetime value over time. Now, if we look at, let's see if we have any others. Ooh, here we go. So we have a couple others here. So the second product that I brought up. So you'll notice here, we have a couple of different ones. We have a save 8% and up to 50% off. So these are two different types of promotions that we actually have. So whenever we're doing a promotion like this, it's kind of interesting because I think a lot of people don't tend to do these super often, but it's something that I'm always going to encourage you. But this is what we would consider to be a specific type of deal promotion. So these type of deal promotions you can create in several different ways. So let me see if I can pull up some deal stuff here.
While you're doing that real quick, we did have somebody say that they're having problems with it keeps replaying and they have to reload the page. Is anyone else having that issue? Just out of curiosity, or is that just a one-person thing? Because sometimes it could just be an internet connection thing.
Daniel here saying, it played for maybe 15 seconds, stopped, and the button now says click to watch live. So yeah, so Daniel, this is live. That might be part of what the issue is. So
yeah,
you might have, when you come in typically for these, it's going to start you at the very beginning. But you know what I'm thinking? If he has that, he's not actually watching live. So we're giving him the explanation of why it's doing that, but he probably isn't seeing it because he probably started it from the beginning.
Well, someone else says I'm facing this issue. So if anyone else is having issues, just so you know, we will post the whatchamacallit, the replay. April says I did, but I got it on my phone. It's been fine since. That's what it did to me also. Okay, yeah, sorry if anyone's having issues. James says it's all good here. So yeah, so it could just be sometimes the internet connection is off.
Yeah, potentially.
Someone else saying, you know, all good here. So we appreciate the feedback because that lets us know maybe we need to look into, you know, what's going on. But yeah, it looks like a few people are having issues with that. So if you are having issues, we apologize. Hopefully you're seeing this live as we talk. Although Daniel is watching live now, so that's good. So anyway, if you miss anything, we will send out a replay. We apologize for any technical glitches, but my daughter's been in, you know, dance and theater, and they always teach the show must go on. So we're just going to keep going.
That we will. So they're asking the difference between these. So obviously we were just talking right about the idea of a coupon. Coupon is very different comparatively to this, which this right here, again, is a form of promotion. So if we actually come over to Amazon, again, if we go to the advertising, we have these 5 different types of either what we're going to call merchandising. Amazon calls it advertising, which it can be thought of in that way, right? If you have a 5% off coupon, that's kind of like having a standard just set 5% ACOS on that product. Now, what we're going to consider these, though, for right now is merchandising, right? And so when we're looking at this is where you would come. You would go to your managed promotions, and you can do specific types of ones. So we actually have a few different ones. You can do the social media promo code. This is good for off Amazon stuff, right? But then we have our percentage off. We have the buy one, get one, right? So the percentage off is what we're seeing here, where essentially you can save 50% or up to 50% off. Then you also have that 8%, right? And that is similar to this buy one, get one, where you can essentially say this 50% off, you're going to buy one, get one 50% off. Then you have a percentage off of the 8%. So these are different promotions. They can stack on top of each other. They can have different meanings at the end of the day. So that's where essentially you're going to have that differentiator there, Aga, of the different types of promotion. So it looks like the other one I pulled up doesn't have any kind of promotion on it, unfortunately. I'm wondering if there's any other I could look at here on Amazon, see if we can find ourselves one or two other just examples of promotions. Something we could also do as well. So you can always type in something like deals, and you'll get a bunch of these. So you'll see this here where it says limited time deal. And if you ever see this on any listing, this is what we would consider to be deal merchandising, right? And so deal merchandising, coming back to Amazon, come down here, go to deals, and you can set up specific deals. So you can do all sorts of different kinds of deals. You can do them for select products, for select time periods. You can do a lightning deal, as you see here, or you can do a best deal, right? And so these each interact in their own specific ways. The idea of a lightning deal is a very limited time offer. So that's why you'll see this limited time deal here. And sometimes with lightning deals, you'll tend to see as well, not only just that limited time, but an actual time frame on it. So how long you can do that for. So here we go, deal selling fast. All of these different types of deals all fall under, again, that deal category. So what type of merchandising works best, I think, is probably the question that everyone's going to be asking on their mind. And again, that really depends on what your overall goal and your overarching goal is. So what I'm always going to recommend is if your goal at the end of the day is, let's say, to increase incremental sales of those customers that are dropping off, I'm going to recommend either a coupon or a brand tailored promotion. Brand tailored promotions, obviously being audience targeting, you can also audience target with your coupons. If you're looking to just get dynamic pricing and an increase in overall market conversion, I'm going to recommend something along the lines of a direct price discount or a deal, because deals are going to be that limited time offer that people can see. And then finally, if your goal at the end of the day is to have a form of value add, a promotion, where you're trying to sell multiple different products, that's what I'm going to recommend is exactly just a promotion. So again, the best way to look at this is think of yourself similar to that as a retail store, like a grocery store, and how you're setting up your specific merchandising based on timeframes and who you're trying to target. You know, the grannies shopping at 7 a.m. on Tuesday are going to be very different buyers and probably much more price conscious buyers than those that are coming in and doing their weekly grocery shopping on Saturday morning.
Got it. Now, Joe has asked, do you have any advice on when to raise or lower the listings price versus promotions?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Joe, that kind of, again, goes back into the idea of dynamic pricing. And so that's what we're going to consider like a strike through price, right? Again, if you're doing a mass trying to get a real quick ranking boost, I would do a mass listing reduction of your, or pricing reduction of your listing, usually for 2 to 3 days, once per month. Now, if your goal is to have it be a little bit longer term, I'm never going to recommend more than about a 10% price drop if it's going to be a long term. And the reason for doing only a 10% or so price drop in there is because over time you are going to get what is considered average selling price on Amazon, or a reference price, if you keep your price too low for too long. And that's why I typically recommend the dynamic pricing more so. And then April asks, can a reseller use these strategies also if we aren't the brand? Yeah, I mean, technically you can. So you absolutely can just create promotions, coupons, change pricing, right? The only difference there is if you're selling products, for instance, that has like an MSRP, right? So if your product has MSRP, then, or not MSRP, MAP pricing, I should say, then you obviously can't lower it below that MAP pricing. But if you're just a reseller on a listing, price is always going to be the number one converting factor, as well as also the number one reason as to how much of the actual featured offer and buy box that you get as well. And then Nana, for how long would you recommend promotions to run for, as they are not promoted the same way as, say, deals? Absolutely. So promotions can usually run much longer than deals can. So if you're going to run a promotion, obviously have a specific purpose behind it. I see people who will just willy-nilly throw promotions out, like that listing we saw had 2 different promotion types running on it at once, right? And you don't want to do that. You want to think of promotions similar to that of like a marketing campaign. Like, what is the overarching goal? Are you trying to increase average order value, which, usually that is the purpose of a promotion, to do something, again, like the buy one, get one X% off, or just a percentage off to increase incremental sales, right? Because not every single person will qualify for a promotion. Not every single person will use that promotion at the end of the day. So usually my recommendation for how long to run for is just dependent on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to increase your average 30-day or your average order value from a 30-day period, then run your promotion for about 30 days. But usually my minimum for promotions is going to be about 2 weeks. And then BS, what's the ideal approach for new product launch, PPC plus coupon? Normally, actually, for new product launch, so this article here, if you just look up my Amazon guide, Dynamic Pricing, this article I'm going over actually talks about new product launch. What I'm usually going to recommend, we also have an entire launch guide, is obviously PPC plus a 50% discount from what you want your desired retail price to be. And you incrementally raise that over the course of 8 weeks to that desired retail price. And then Joe, there are deals that are seasonal. How do we look out for that? Like, let's say Prime Day deals. Perfect. Okay, so this is actually a perfect segue into what I was kind of talking about with when to schedule each one of these different types of promotions. So great question there, Joe. So yeah, deals that are seasonal. So Prime, we didn't talk, I guess, about two different things, which is specifically Prime exclusive discounts, right? Which is a specific type of pricing discount, and then as well just Prime Day lightning deals. And so each of these, how do you look out for that? Usually you will get the ability to have a Prime exclusive discount or a lightning deal for Prime Day, let's say, or any holiday. It's not just Prime Days, right? So I always put out every single year, and I think I actually already put it out this year, but I can throw it out on LinkedIn again, a yearly roadmap tracker of basically here are all of the major holidays that are selling or major selling holidays on Amazon for the year. Here's the date for them, when to look out for them. I always tell people a minimum of 4 weeks prior, so 1 month prior to whenever that actual deal is, because that's usually when Amazon starts allowing people. It can be for Prime Day, it's usually about 2 months earlier than the actual Prime Day. So Prime Day in July, we usually see them start allowing for the lightning deals in as early as May, sometimes even late April. So that's the biggest thing, is create basically a calendar for yourself for the year of your specific high volume sales days, let's say, that are going to be holidays. And then obviously put together tasks about a month, if not a month and a half early, to be checking for your ability to have a lightning deal, to have a Prime exclusive discount. Cool. All right. I don't know where Kevin went, but
sorry, I was trying to add myself to the stage and I clicked the wrong button. Yeah. So, all right. So we talked a lot there about catalog and merchandising and promotions, but another piece that gets kind of lost in the, let's just focus on PPC bids, is design. Yes. What are things that sellers should be focusing on with design, or some common mistakes they're making?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me pull up a listing here. So we were initially looking at this listing, this doorstopper. Let's do this. Cool. So we were initially looking at this listing, right? And there are essentially 3 specific areas to consider when we're talking about design. The first one would be the obvious, which is your product images. So that is this right here. The second one is going to be your brand story. So that is this section that's from the brand. And then finally, we're going to have our A+ content down here. So these are the major areas of design. And so when we look at design as one of our growth pillars, right, we're always going to be talking primarily about the A+ content and your listing images. So let's talk first and foremost about listing images and why it's such a pinnacle thing. So the age-old phrase is that pictures are for people, reading is for robots. I want everyone who is here to just repeat that to themselves as many times as necessary. So pictures are for people, reading is for robots. So when we're looking at pictures, the very first thing, and it's our 5th growth pillar, is CTR, which is our main image. What makes a really, really great main image, and what is considered a main image hack for CTR? So a couple of things. First and foremost, know what is your highest relevancy and highest click-through rate keyword. What does your product emphasize from its actual use case? So for this brand in particular, they are wall protectors specifically. Doesn't have to be doors, but it is. That is, wall protector is the biggest thing, right? So you can see here immediately, we have the keyword, just wall protectors in big bold on the product packaging. This is, again, what we would consider to be a CTR hack, because we are trying to show people that this is exactly what you are searching for. Somebody types in the keywords wall protector, right? And then they are scrolling down through the actual listings. They are immediately going to see this, see these main image and be like, ah, perfect. This is exactly what I need. That is the purpose of having a main image CTR hack. Now, secondary aspects of main image CTR hacks, you'll see here. We have a little American flag. Then we have designed and patented in the USA. A lot of people don't realize it, but actually being a US product is very impactful to your CTR. It will show an increase in overall CTR. So we're always going to encourage, if you can, to add something like this. Now, if you're not a product that is made in the USA, do not put that on there because Amazon will take your product down. So that is a new thing because of FTC regulations.
Yeah, they'll come after you. You don't want the feds coming after you.
Yeah, exactly. So the FTC unfortunately sued Amazon. Actually, not unfortunately. They sued Amazon last year over this. And so definitely don't add it if it's not something that is made in the USA, but absolutely if it is added in there. And then we also have this one up here. So you'll see we're also telling people within this main image that it is a 6-pack. They get 6 of them. That's not always super clear if you lay out all of the products. You can see that we lay out the products here, kind of showing the 6-packs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? But that's not super clear at all times. And so that's why you always want to include this. And this is a core aspect of design principle. When we're thinking about listing designs on Amazon, the biggest thing that you have to think about with the pictures are for people aspect is that you have to let people know as many features about your product as possible within your images. So if we go on to the secondary one, this is a big aspect. If you are ever curious of what you should be putting in your secondary, third, fourth, fifth images on your listing, the easiest thing to think about is what have people said whenever they reviewed my product negatively. So check your negative reviews, figure out why it is people purchased the product and were not happy with it. Once you figure that out, it allows a very easy way to say, boom, I can address that within my images. So right here, you can see, boom, we have a hand that's showing sizing, right? We want people to know exactly how large our product is. It doesn't matter that right here we say 1.5 inches, right? Because you doing the exact same thing over and over again within your images is okay, as long as it is to actually emphasize something about the product. We say it right here, 1.5 inches, cool. We have an entire design showing it. So tailored for the perfect fit. This is showing that we have different sizing of the product, right? We have a 1.5, we have a 2-inch, we have 3.5, and that can be seen down here in these different variations as well. So the 1.5 inch, the 2-inch, the 2-inch, 3.5, so on and so forth. Now, a next image, easy 3-step installation, no tools required. This is the type of infographic image, and that is what this is considered, that I am always going to encourage on any type of product that is used in any use case. Doesn't matter if it's consumable, doesn't matter anything. One of the biggest areas that people tend to get negative reviews from people purchasing their products through design work, right, is because people don't know how to use the product. They don't read directions. At the end of the day, you have to assume that every single person who purchases your product is next to illiterate when it comes to taking open some directions and actually reading them. And so absolutely, when you're putting together an infographic, if there is any installation, any setup, anything required to use your product effectively, always create an infographic for this. So right here, you can see easy 3-step installation, no tools required. Now, a big aspect with all of this as well that I want to point out, and I don't know if I saw any comments on it yet, but a big thing that I want to point out is you'll notice that all of this text, super easy to read. Big text, very small amount of text that we are showing here alongside actual image use case, right? The reason for this is that you have to assume that at least 60 to 70% of your buyers are going to be on their phone. That is a very, very important thing to understand when you are actually doing any form of design work, is that people are likely going to be on their phone. Everything is going to be shrunk down. We create all of these designs on a computer. And, myself personally, I have 2 monitors right here. These 2 monitors are, I think 28-inch monitors or so. They're huge, right? This looks great to me because it's big and blown up at the end of the day. But assume that every single person is not going to be buying on desktop. They're buying on their phones. The majority of consumers do. So make your text very small, keep it very concise so that people, again, don't have to read, because people don't like to read, right? So make it as concise as possible, as large as possible whenever you're designing. Next one in here, you can see comes off clean, no fuss, no damage. Again, we're addressing a likely pain point and objection someone would have to purchasing your product, right? Think of any type of design work as basically handling objections similar to a sales process, right? In the sense, and I realize I'm the guy here, sales and marketing guy, that's coming and saying this, but it's a big thing, right? Whenever you're trying to talk about this, one, we're telling people how to remove it, for one, showing them how to remove it. And then also the big thing is handling that people likely are going to be reviewing, saying, oh, it isn't easy to come off. So we're showing people how to make it come off while simultaneously just giving that or handling that objection up front as to why someone might not purchase it. We're showing the different types of areas they can stick to, sticks to almost every surface. Again, very minimal with the text. Get the point across as quickly and easily as possible, showing it in a visual manner. People don't want to read. They want to understand the product as well as possible within the design. Again, we have another one here just for sizing, because you have no idea how often it is that people will very often not look at the sizing and not understand the true size and scope of things, right? Reiterating anything within your images is never bad. And finally, I always am going to encourage a lifestyle image of some kind. This one's a little kind of funny in the sense of, you can see the faked wall bang here versus the little doorstop, but lifestyle images are a big thing. Now, a couple of things when it comes to a listing like this with lifestyle images. So products like this, it doesn't necessarily, right, have to be your exact type of ICP, but is something I'm always going to encourage with lifestyles, right? So for instance, people who are likely to buy this product are going to be people with small children who are trying to basically, again, try and get away from the damage that these children might have slamming a door into the wall, right? But a big thing with the lifestyle, and we can look at a couple of different types of appliances, right? So another brand here that I know of, let's choose MacuHealth. And MacuHealth uses lifestyle in a very different way, but follows all of the same principles we have. So you'll notice MacuHealth, when we're looking at like the lifestyle, who are the people? A couple of things here. One, this is the ICP. This is the person, age-wise and demographic-wise, that is going to be buying a product like this. But a bigger, more crucial thing that you'll notice here is they are looking at the camera. It's the number one thing that people get wrong with lifestyle design in general on Amazon, is that so often they will have some form of lifestyle image, but the people aren't looking at the camera, right? They aren't actually looking at you, but making that eye contact with the camera actually is shown to increase conversion rates when it comes to lifestyle imagery. So if you are putting together lifestyle imagery, I'm always going to encourage, if you can, to have your models within the lifestyle looking direct at the camera versus looking away, utilizing the product. This is going to increase your overall conversion because people are going to feel more attached at the end of the day. It's a weird psychology thing, but it does work from a converting standard. So these are all of the major things that you should be focusing on, right, whenever we're looking at listing design work, right? And just understanding that those are what will get people to convert at the end of the day. Now, talking a little bit about A+ content as well, and I'll skim over this part just a bit so we can kind of cover a little bit more than just this, but A+ content, you'll notice again, lifestyle imagery, people are staring directly at you. And this is something that now that I'm telling you guys this, and it's same thing every time I talk to people about this, right, is that you will start to notice it on every single listing that you consider to look like a good listing. the difference between people staring in the listing versus people not staring with this lifestyle, right? So the idea behind A+ content is twofold. One, obviously try and convert, but give additional features and benefits. So you'll notice here, text is much, much bigger here, but we get to say more with our text, right? And that is purposeful because people who tend to purchase impulsively are quick. They're going to be going through these images real fast. They're going to go like this. They're going to try and get just a very quick, easy understanding of the product. Does this fit my need? People who do not purchase impulsively are going to go below the fold. They're going to look at the A+ content. They're going to make sure that it actually solves whatever they're trying to do. So you'll notice we have different text here. We're not just reusing the exact same things that we already had in the listing images, because if they were going to buy based off of the text and the descriptions within those listing images, they already would have bought. So your A+ content should always have new information in it so that people can get a further understanding of the product. The point of A+, again, is to convert those that did not convert off of the listing images. You'll see here we have shock absorbent, washable, and reusable, zero damage to your wall, right? So that's a recall out again if people didn't get further in to the actual thing. Self-adhesive, highly durable, right? So we're showing off these aspects. Prevents cracks, reduces noises, saves money. It is reiteration while simultaneously giving new information. And then you'll see here for this type of product, we're showing different use cases, because if you notice, every single one we've shown up to this point is just a regular door, but boom. Now, if somebody was like, well, does this work for other areas? It surely does. You can do a toilet seat, you can do a cabinets, so on and so forth, right? Again, the idea of A+ is basically you already got a lot of, the objections handled across the line within your listing images, but there's always going to be people who need a little bit more to get across that line. You want to make sure that you address any additional concerns, basically try and sell the product as much as possible within that A+ content.
Got it. Now, we talked about design. We just talked about catalog and merchandising. And then you got SEO and PPC and CTR. Like, are these just like 4 different, we use the term pillars for this, but are they in their own silos or do they work together?
Everything works together on Amazon, right? So when we're looking at the idea of all of these growth pillars, and let's talk about the aspect that we did with merchandising and design. How do merchandising and design go together at the end of the day? And the big aspect there is, and looking at our kind of circle, right, is that you need a good main image and a good click-through rate to get people onto the platform. Cool. Now that they are actually on your product detail page, you have to essentially say, okay, how are we going to get them to actually buy the product, right? That is the conversion metric, right? And so that is what we're going to consider in this idea of essentially the product detail page or platform management, then brand content optimization, right? So we're essentially looking and saying, cool, let's add a coupon for helping people convert from a pricing standard. Now let's optimize the brand content and the listing images, the A+ content, so that we can cover all use cases and make sure people understand what the product is, what it does, and why they should buy it. That's where the design comes in. And then after they purchase it, that purchase goes back to our search engine optimization, the title, the bullet points, the description. If you do not have essentially any one of your high relevancy keywords, such as wall protector, in your title, your bullet points, your description, your back-end search terms, you can't be optimized and you can't rank for it on your search, right? So you want to optimize your SEO for the idea that people are already going to be purchasing, because you need purchases to actually have that. But if you don't optimize, it doesn't matter. Now, finally, we get into that paid advertising, right? Where now we're driving traffic to each one of those listings. But if we drive traffic to a specific search term of some kind, right? Regardless of whether or not we're ranked on it, if we have a crap main image, nobody's going to click on it. And so we basically get stopped. The point of the circle here, when we're looking at this, is that each one of these feeds into each other in some way, shape, or form. You have to essentially have clicks at the end of the day to get conversions. But to get conversions, you have to optimize your design. And then finally or not finally, but then, after you've optimized your design and you get conversions, fantastic. Now you have to actually try and get them over a pricing standard. Your product meets their specifications. They clicked on it. Fantastic. If it's priced at $1 million, they won't buy it. But if it's priced effectively and promoted effectively from a merchandising standpoint, they will buy it, right? And then finally, now we're looking at the actual search side, right? How do they actually find your product in the first place? And that's where you have to organically work on your search terms and then put in the actual juice behind it that is the paid advertising. So it all circles together at the end of the day.
Awesome. All right. So next up, we do have a few questions that are starting to come in. So if anybody watching this has questions, we'll do our best to get to questions. We're going to be going for about another half hour or so. Now, real quick, James says, what effect have you found that Rufus and AI in general have on PPC? Have search terms and their search volume that were previously searched seen a decrease overall because of increased use of Rufus? If so, then how do we need to change our approach on PPC and on listing creation?
You don't. So I've seen a couple of posts actually recently come out about how there are now ads inside Rufus. So one of the biggest things that I think there's a lot of AI hype, a lot of Rufus hype. And I think by and large, the Rufus hype is because of AI hype, plus the fact we don't get a lot of new stuff on Amazon, right? And so a lot of people are kind of talking about this idea that Rufus is going to change the selling platform as a whole. Amazon self-proclaims that roughly 150 to 200 million monthly users in the US utilize Rufus. I have seen multiple different companies do their own independent studies and get feedback from the general public that the actual numbers are closer to about 4 to 8% of total buyers on Amazon regularly utilize Rufus, right? And so do I think that Rufus is overtaking generic search? No. And I don't think Amazon wants that either, to be fair, because Amazon is built off of search. The idea behind how to optimize for Rufus at the end of the day, this is not just Rufus, it's any AI. A lot of people don't understand the fact that majority of these AI right now are basically doing the exact same thing. GEO is SEO in essence, right? The two ways to optimize for AI are one, same way you would optimize for SEO. If you have a top ranking term for any type of keyword, right, you're going to likely rank really high in AI. Second one is having things like FAQs on your page. Does this actually solve the use case that people are searching for? But people at the end of the day, by and large on Amazon, do not ask questions when they are searching for something. That is why you don't see, for instance, any long tail keywords of a 8-string of keyword question being advertised against, because of the fact that that's not how people search for things on Amazon. It's not how they buy things. Rufus isn't going to change that at the end of the day. So we're still going to be, by and large, probably very focused on that. People are obviously seeing it as a search bot so they can ask questions around it. But Rufus is still just going to give them basically the top performers in any categories. So that still just means that you have to focus first and foremost on sales, pricing, things like that. That is why each of these different pillars are not individually more important than the other one, because each one plays off of the other. If you have a really, really awful conversion rate, right, that usually means that probably your SEO and your design is really, really bad, or your pricing doesn't make sense. If you have a really, really bad, you're not getting anything from the PPC side, right? It means you're probably targeting PPC incorrectly to the point where nobody's clicking on your product and you need to redo your main image. So all of these play off each other. I'm not seeing major changes in search volume anywhere, to be frank. And my biggest aspect as well is that I believe that within the next 12 months, they are going to get rid of like Rufus as a whole and just migrate it into Amazon's regular search, where it will populate. And you're already starting to see this on Amazon, I should say. If you're ever on Amazon, you're just looking for something, right? I'll turn off my Helium 10 here so that we can actually look at this together. But if you're ever looking at some point in time on Amazon, let me share my screen here. Oh, am I not sharing my screen? Oh, there we go. There we go. So if you're ever looking at Amazon at some point in time, you'll actually start to see like down here, a lot of times they'll have Rufus. So if we do like collagen, yeah. So you see these down here, right? Where you can ask these aren't clicked super often, right? Because people on Amazon aren't searching for things. This is how people search. It's why it's why they show up, because this is what people actually search for. They don't ask like what are the most popular forms of collagen supplements for women. People aren't going to start utilizing Amazon like they would Google, right? It's not how people search at the end of the day. It's not how people are accustomed. It's going to be a while before we see that changeover.
And isn't like that number that Amazon gives of like, 150 to 200 million users using Rufus could be people that just clicked on one of those suggestions?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's the biggest thing is that Amazon, when they say that, like 250 million people use Rufus every single month, they do not quantify and did not quantify at all what is considered using Rufus, right? And anyone who has been on desktop for a while when shopping on Amazon should also know that there are many times where, for instance, you'll search something like this and Rufus will just pop out to the side, right? So Rufus will pop out to the side and start like giving suggestions. On app, it's even more annoying. Rufus will randomly just pop up, completely getting rid of these SERP and just be there. And so do they count that necessarily as using Rufus, or is that, in my opinion, Rufus invading what I'm trying to do?
Right. They cheated.
Exactly. And so they don't necessarily, they haven't quantified what exactly utilization of Rufus is. But again, like I said, a lot independent say between 4 and 8% of shoppers have utilized Rufus in the last 90 days from when they had done it. Which, don't get me wrong, that's still a pretty hefty percentage, but it's not changing how you should be utilizing it at the end of the day. And, if we're ever looking at Rufus, right, and I just type in collagen to Rufus, this is the more interesting part. It's starting to think, it's checking, right? And we'll see as it goes through gathering products. This
way
is also
slower than search.
Way slower. This took me 2 seconds. This is taking forever. You'll notice like immediately it's showing like premium liquid collagen for women. Like there's liquid collagen here. I didn't say anything about liquid collagen. It's just giving me a bunch of different ones, right? And so whenever we're looking at all these different ones, this is much less user-friendly, right? Overall, we have collagen gummies, right? None of this is collagen. You'll notice all of these products came up, right? Which is collagen and everything. And these are technically the best sellers for collagen. We're essentially just seeing like a bunch of different options. And Rufus also saying, great question. I didn't ask a question. I said collagen. So it's odd how it comes up, right? And it's not user-friendly. It's not something that I'm thinking is going to be how people work at the end of the day with things. You'll even notice here, like collagen powder. So you'll see here where essentially this is the one that shows up for collagen powder. It has 92 reviews, right? It's not the number one seller. It's $21. It's not even the most inexpensive one. We're looking right here. We have, literally the top seller in the category, 82,000 reviews and a cheaper price. This is where essentially we're going to be, I believe, seeing people not utilize Rufus because the way that it is choosing products right now is not inducive of how Amazon itself has worked historically. Now, does it give a chance for, I think, smaller sellers to pop up more often? Yes. But again, I just asked for more powdered collagen, and it took premium and specialty options to, show up. Why is this considered a premium and specialty option, right? When it is by and large the cheapest option that they're showing. Like this is the cheapest, but this is 16 ounces. This is larger, right? At the end of the day, Rufus, in my opinion, is not something that the end consumer is going to trust nearly as much as just making the decision themselves.
I think
I
think we have a long way to go before it's overtaken. All right. So next up, Nana says, how do we know if our content is converting? Is it a backwards calculation? Like if everything else is working, it must be our content, as there is no actual metrics for tracking performance for A+ content.
There is, right? So you can track those metrics. It's your CTR and your conversion, right? So how do you know if your content is converting? Well, that's easy. When's the last time you changed your A+ content? When's the last time you changed your listing images? So anytime you do some form of design optimization whatsoever, you should not just do a design optimization, throw it out, and see if your sales go up. That's not how you do any form of analysis of data, right? You should be uploading a new A+ content and then checking and tracking what is your historical conversion rate with your past A+ content, what is your new conversion rate? And you can even do this with inside Amazon with their A/B testing, right? So Amazon has managed your experiments under the brands section, and you can just do an A+ content test. You can do a main image test, a image stack test, right? These are things that I would encourage you to do because it will allow you to essentially see, is my conversion rate improving? I changed my image. Is my main image also, or my click-through rate going up from there, right? These are things you should do and you should be tracking if you make any form of optimization for your content specifically.
Awesome. All right, I'm back. I was actually, I've been taking myself out just so everybody knows, like I'm not hiding. It's more just, I wanted to make sure to lower the bandwidth to hopefully help with some of the issues folks have been having. So, which we haven't had any reports lately. So hopefully everyone's having a good experience watching this. Nana says, great, thank you. Or Nana, hopefully I said that right. We'll take one more question, then I've got something I want to share with everybody, and then we'll come back to more questions after that. Fiza says, Rufus and Cosmo work together just to validate customers' intent. I think solving customers' problems in real and SEO optimized listing with proper keyword research will help get us ranked higher through Amazon AI agents. What are your thoughts and words, Noah?
My thoughts and words.
I changed the last sentence a little bit.
I get so incredibly frustrated when I see so many people talking about Cosmo. The reason I get so incredibly frustrated when I see people talking about Cosmo is for a very specific reason. Amazon announced Cosmo in 2024. Since then, Amazon has only done a beta test of Cosmo on less than 10% of the entire market. Cosmo is not a thing. It's not a thing in the algorithm. It's not something that is rolled out to every single person. It is not something you should be optimizing for because it doesn't exist. Amazon has not rolled out Cosmo. I want to make that very clear to everyone. And I know it sounds like I am a little frustrated. It's because I am, right? Because I hear it so often. So many people that are, Amazon gurus and just people who are like, oh, Rufus Cosmo. It's like, it's not rolled out. I've made a video on Cosmo, right? I made one a year ago at this point when Amazon first was talking about Cosmo and what the changes were and what the initial data was. Amazon has not made a single announcement since that point, right? People keep talking about it. There was one specific data study that was done, I believe in like March of last year. So again, only like 6 months after the fact, but people keep talking about Cosmo like it's this thing that has evolved the Amazon algorithm, and it hasn't, right? We haven't seen any like drastic changes to the algorithm. It's not like there's anything specific that's different. And that's the big thing I want to quantify to everyone here, right? When I talk about these 4 growth pillars, this is also the growth pillars that Amazon themselves looks at, right? These are things that we know at this point in time affect the Amazon algorithm. You can go through and you can change your main image and you can see that your click-through rate increases. You can add new keywords to your back-end search terms and watch in real time over 30 days as those keywords are added to your indexed list of keywords, right? That hasn't changed in, I don't even know how long, right? At this point in time, that's just how Amazon works. It's going to continue to be how Amazon works. We don't have a way to optimize for these different areas because Amazon hasn't given you a way to optimize for it, right? There is no difference in how you optimize for a listing now as there has been historically. Now, there are differences in things like keyword stuffing has changed over the years, right? And that's just minor tweaks that happen. That was like how everyone called the A9 algorithm, the 810 algorithm in 2022, even though there wasn't actually like a new algorithm. Amazon just tweaked to where keyword stuffing wasn't as impactful at the end of the day. So anytime you're hearing somebody right now talk about like optimizing for Cosmo, just first and foremost, know that they are talking only from a theoretical standpoint. with zero data backing. They can say that they've tested all sorts of things. 90% of what they're going to talk about could be related directly back into the core principles of SEO and how to optimize for that at the end of the day. So Faiza, you're very welcome. I do like hearing this from the aspect of people bringing it up, because I get to then tell people there's a lot of people out there that are full of, doo-doo. So that's the big thing at the end of the day. Will all of this at the end of the day help you with Rufus and ranking for Rufus? I think so, right? The biggest things with Rufus is going to be the same. Again, we saw right there immediately as to why it is Rufus itself. You can't exactly optimize for it. James did talk about the idea of like the new sponsored prompts, and you can start to sponsor prompts through your advertising now. You'll start to see data trickle through for that. We're doing it, and it seems to work out fairly well. If you can find a specific prompt that works, very low impression volume, as James noted as well when it comes to that, and very low. They're very basic questions at that, and that's just what it's going to be. You're not going to see a lot of impressions because a lot of people don't use it. So that's I'll get off my high horse now on the AI train. I love AI, frankly, as well. I want everyone to know that I'm a big AI proponent. I just think a lot of people blow it way out of the water of importance.
Yeah, I mean, people have to look at it as from a practical standpoint of like, where is it? So like in comparison, let's say another search engine, Google. Google AI has kind of taken over like the top half of the above the fold part of Google search. So that's pushing everything else down. When you search for something on Amazon, yeah, at the bottom of the suggested searches, there's some Rufus searches you could do, but Rufus and Cosmo and everything else is not taking over anything. And it's really up to the consumer to go find like way down at the bottom, the little thing where you could click on Rufus or, on desktop to go find it. And they're not going out of their way right now. Would they maybe in years coming up ahead? Maybe, but we're not there yet. So, all right. So sorry, we're going to share something?
No, I was, you made me think right now because I did say this. I think this is just like another great example at the end of the day. I'll just like pull up Helium 10 here. Again, when we're thinking of this, what are some of the best collagen supplements? This is very much what I want to get people to understand is if we're looking, I did it again. If we're looking at this, right, Helium 10 tracks literally every single keywords, impressions, everything. Wrong thing. Here we go. So Rufus was saying that a question that's frequently asked is, what are the best collagen supplements? So we'll even take out this sum of part, right? We just go and do what are the best collagen supplements. We don't have any results found, right? From like related long tail keywords. And the reason we don't have any results found is because there isn't search volume, because this is not how people search on Amazon. This is how people search on Google, right? And that behavior isn't going to change. As of last year, 58% of all online purchases started with a search on Amazon. So it's now a point where you should be optimizing for how people search on Amazon, not how people search on Google at the end of the day. So it's a big thing, right? People will ask questions to Google because it's what they know. They're not asking questions in the Amazon search. They're looking for products.
Awesome. All right. I'd like to share my screen now. So, all right. So this is something we call the brand strategist playbook. This is what our team uses to figure out like, okay, if they're managing an account for a client, part of the $1.2 billion per year we talked about that we do annually, whether it be, merchandising and catalog, promos and coupons, the things that we just talked about, as well as things like advertising and whatnot. We give them basically a script to follow. Like it's about as close to paint by numbers as you can come up with. We're basically like, let's say for advertising, here's the things that are most critical. Here's the things that have a high impact. Here's the things that have medium impact and low impact. So if you just start with whatever's going to have the highest impact at the beginning, and you just go down that list, you do the same thing with, let's say, your pricing and your promos, what is most critical, as well as for merchandising and catalog, and then as well as, We've got over here, we've got creative. So that would be your design. So, and of course, like we talked about, what's the most important part? Main image. So we give this to people who oftentimes have little experience on Amazon, and they're able to provide great results for clients with this. Now, oftentimes people will say like, okay, you've got this that says like, okay, here's how you do it with, resources, telling you what to do, the benefits of doing it, why you should do it. How do I get a hold of something like that? So this is like our most recent updated version. So we have a training team who goes in and updates this constantly. So this is updated as of this month. It's in our mag school, something we call our brand strategist playbook. So you can get the brand strategist playbook in mag school, but you'd be spending a whole lot more money if you went and bought it on our website today than what we're going to actually offer it to you right now. So with that, you can get our brand strategist playbook along with a bonus of our 7-figure scaling academy and our 5 most popular mag school courses, which is a $500 value. You can get all that for just $497 if you go to myamazonguy.com/enroll. This is a killer deal. This is going to be available just until Tuesday of next week at midnight Eastern time. And the good news is you're protected by a 7-day money-back guarantee. So if this is something you get it and you realize this is not my thing, just let us know. No hard feelings. We want you to make informed decisions based on the information you have, not on worrying about what you don't have. And so with that, again, go to myamazonguy.com/enroll, and let's get back to some questions that folks have.
Do we have more?
Yeah, so if you have more questions, drop them into the chat. We did have a couple comments earlier that I was going to hold on to, such as April, who said, I've been listening to you all for years. Your information is always so valuable. I just started with this, what we're doing here, and have been informing them, the company that she's at, I should say, and have been informing them about Mag's info and how useful these master classes are. So thank you for being an evangelist for us, April. We didn't pay April to say that.